In a world that constantly tells you to chase more success, more approval, more possessions, it's easy to lose yourself in the noise. But the Stoics knew a different path, a path of stillness, a path of control, not over others, but over yourself. In this video, we're not here to teach you how to win the rat race. We're here to show you how to step off the wheel entirely, to stop chasing, to start living. Through 10 powerful Stoic truths, you'll learn how to cut through the chaos, recognize what truly matters, and reclaim your peace. This is not passive acceptance. This is strength in stillness, courage in simplicity. It's about building a foundation so solid, the world cannot shake you. Prepare to walk the quiet path of power, calm, measured, and unshakable. Let's begin. 1. Understand the impermanence of life. This is one of the most brutal, beautiful, and liberating truths a man can ever face. Everything in this life is passing. Every possession you hold, every relationship you cherish, every title you earn, every ounce of strength in your body, it is all temporary. The world changes, seasons shift, people come and go, and no matter how tightly you try to hold on, nothing stays. But instead of running from this truth, the Stoic turns toward it. He does not flinch. He does not beg for more time. He does not cry out when change takes what he loves. He accepts, not with weakness, but with power, because in impermanence, he finds his freedom. He is not shocked when loss arrives. He is not broken when life moves forward without asking for his permission. He is prepared. He is calm. He is grounded in a reality most refuse to face. The average man is enslaved by his attachments. He ties his identity to things that can be taken: a relationship, a career, a number in his bank account, a reflection in the mirror. And when those things are threatened or lost, he collapses. He feels empty, unworthy, afraid. Why? Because his sense of self was never rooted in strength, it was rooted in illusion. But the Stoic man builds differently. He understands from the beginning that nothing external is his to keep, not people, not comfort, not pleasure. Everything outside of his character is borrowed, temporary. And so, he holds what he loves without gripping it. He embraces life fully, yet without fear of loss, because he knows the deeper truth. Everything you love will be taken from you, or you will be taken from it. And the only choice you have is how you meet that moment. Will you beg and break, or will you bow your head? Breathe deep, and keep moving with honor. Impermanence also teaches you how to live with urgency, not anxiety, not panits, but deep, disciplined urgency. When you truly understand that your days are numbered, that each sunrise is one less you'll ever see, you stop wasting time. You stop gossiping. You stop numbing yourself with distractions. You stop procrastinating on the things that actually matter. You begin to walk with a fire under your feet. You begin to speak with weight. You begin to show up, not tomorrow, not next week, but now, fully, completely, because you realize that nothing in this world waits. Not time, not truth, not opportunity. And if you keep delaying your life, it will pass by without you. And this truth sharpens everything. It makes every act sacred. Every conversation becomes a chance to speak with integrity. Every breath becomes a reminder that you're still in the fight. Every morning is another opportunity to step into the man you were meant to be. You stop taking people for granted. You look them in the eyes when they speak. You forgive faster. You hold your tongue when anger rises. You train harder. You stop giving your energy to things that won't matter in the end. Because you know the end is coming, and that knowledge wakes you up. But do not mistake this awareness for sorrow. The Stoic does not walk through life sad or afraid. He walks through life awake. He feels deeply, but he does not cling. He loves completely, but he does not beg. He builds fully, but he is not destroyed when things fall, because he knows they will. And that knowledge does not make him cold. It makes him strong. He does not resist the flow of life, he moves with it. He adjusts, adapts, endures, and in doing so, he becomes unshakable. You must understand, impermanence is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher. It shows you where your peace truly comes from, not from what you own, or who admires you, or what you've achieved, but from your inner stance, your response to change, your ability to remain composed when the ground shifts beneath you. That is the measure of a man, not how long he can hold something, but how well he can let it go, how fiercely he can love, without needing to possess, how deeply he can live, knowing it will all end. So let this truth burn away your fear. Let it strip you of what is false. Let it clarify what actually matters. And above all, let it drive you to live, not someday, but now, with strength, with presence, with unbreakable dignity. You are not here forever. So speak with intention, train with purpose, stand with courage, love without need. And when the moment comes to release what you've built, or what you've loved, do it with the calm of a man who knew all along that nothing lasts, and yet gave everything while it did. That is the way of the Stoic. That is how you walk through a world of dust with your head held high and your soul on fire. 2. The power of acceptance. This is where true strength begins, not with control, not with conquest, but with clarity. The clarity to see things exactly as they are, without distortion, without complaint, and without denial. Most men live in conflict with reality. They argue with it. They reject it. They curse it when it does not align with their desires or expectations. They believe the world owes them fairness, that people should act according to their wishes, that plans should unfold without resistance. And when these illusions shatter, as they always do, they fall into confusion, bitterness, and emotional chaos. But the Stoic does not build his peace on illusions. He builds it on truth. And acceptance is the gateway to that truth. Acceptance is not weakness. It is not giving up. It is the highest form of inner command. Because it says, I see what is. I acknowledge it fully, and I will meet it on my terms. The man who has mastered acceptance is immune to the shock of misfortune. He does not cry out, "Why me?" when the storm arrives. He already expected the storm. He trained for it. He anticipated loss, betrayal, discomfort, change. And because of this, he is not caught off guard. He is not frozen by disappointment. He does not flail when life shifts suddenly. He remains centered. Because he understands that so much of life is outside his hands. The opinions of others, the passing of time, the actions of the crowd, the unfolding of events. These are not his to command. What he does command is his response, his posture, his intention, his next move. That is the ground he owns. And by focusing only on that, he becomes powerful. To accept reality is not to become passive. It is to stop wasting energy on resistance and to redirect that energy into strategy, into action, into transformation. A man who resists his circumstances becomes consumed by emotion. He falls into blame, into excuses, into helplessness. But the man who accepts his circumstances calmly begins the process of domination. He begins the process of adaptation. He accepts what is happening, not because he agrees with it, but because he knows the first law of battle. Face the enemy in front of you, not the one you wish you had. And in life, the enemy is often uncertainty, discomfort, or change. So the Stoic faces it fully, steadily, without panic. Think of the great figures who embodied this mindset. Marcus Aurelius, exiled by stress and burden, still ruling with justice. Epictetus, once a slave, accepting his condition and building wisdom that would outlive empires. They did not wish for perfect conditions. They did not wait for fairness. They looked life in the eye, took a breath, and said, "Let it come." That is acceptance. Not surrender, but readiness. Not weakness, but discipline. It is the fire-tested calm of a man who no longer needs reality to be ideal. He simply needs it to be real, so he can work with it. Acceptance is also a shield against manipulation. When you stop needing life to please you, no one can use pleasure to control you. When you stop fearing discomfort, no one can use pain to move you. You become immovable. People will try to provoke you, try to insult you, try to stir emotion in you. But if you have accepted what they are, if you have let go of your need for them to act differently, you will not react. You will see clearly. You will respond, not out of emotion, but from a place of still power, and in that moment, they lose their grip. The world loses its grip, because you have stopped handing it the strings to pull. This discipline, like all others, is forged through repetition, through trials, through moments where you feel the urge to resist, but instead you breathe and observe. It is built by choosing, day after day, not to fight what is, but to use it, to learn from it, to ask, "What does this moment require of me?" Instead of asking, "Why isn't this easier?" That is the essence of Stoic mastery. And slowly, as this practice deepens, your mind becomes quieter, your heart becomes stronger, you stop fearing the unexpected, you stop being surprised by hardship. You walk through life with a steady pace, your energy reserved for what you can actually shape: your words, your actions, your thoughts, your path. So let this truth take hold. Accept what is, not because it is good, not because it is fair, but because it is real. And once you accept it, you can begin to shape what comes next. Let go of the fantasy of a perfect life. Let go of the story that says you were wronged, or cursed, or overlooked. You are here. This is your ground. This is your reality. And it belongs to you the moment you stop resisting it. That is where your true strength begins. Not in fighting the wind, but in learning how to move with it, using every gust to drive you forward. Acceptance is not the end of power. It is where power begins. Quiet, steady, absolute. 3. Live fully in the present. This is the root commandment of Stoic discipline. not a cliché, not a suggestion, but an uncompromising demand for any man who seeks to rise above weakness, confusion, and emotional chaos. The present is the only battlefield you will ever truly stand on. Everything else is illusion. The past is a story. The future is a shadow. But this moment, this single point in time, is real. And it is here, right now, that your fate is decided. Most men never come to this realization. They live scattered, pulled backward by guilt and regret, yanked forward by fear and longing. Their minds drift constantly, like leaves blown in every direction. They chase pleasure, status, distractions, always hoping that someday they will feel grounded. But someday never comes, because the only ground that ever existed beneath their feet was this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. A man who fails to live in the present is at the mercy of the world. He is easily provoked, quickly confused, endlessly distracted. He is not in command of his time or his choices. He speaks without thinking, reacts without understanding, moves without aim. And that kind of man cannot be trusted, not by others, and not by himself. But the man who brings his full mind to the moment, the man who lives entirely in the now, becomes dangerous, not in appearance, but in awareness. His calm gaze cuts deeper than shouting ever could. His silence holds more authority than 1,000 frantic words, because he is here, truly here, watching, listening, thinking, and from this stillness comes precise action. Presence is not simply being aware of your surroundings. It is the act of reclaiming your mind from everything that does not serve your mission. It is rejecting the scattered mental noise that most people accept as normal. It is resisting the pull of imaginary futures and unresolved pasts. It is anchoring yourself in what is, not what was, and not what might be, and that takes strength. It takes discipline. It takes the daily practice of pulling yourself back again and again until it becomes second nature. This is not something you master in a week. This is a war fought one breath at a time. When you train yourself to live in the present, everything changes. You begin to notice things, the weight of your own body, the tone behind someone's voice, the rhythm of your breath when tension builds. You become aware of the subtle shifts in energy in a conversation. You recognize when your ego wants to speak, and you choose instead to remain silent. You learn to pause, not out of fear, but out of power, because you no longer need to prove anything. You no longer need to rush into every situation trying to dominate. You stand still, observe, and then strike only when it serves your purpose. This kind of presence builds an inner citadel, a place where nothing can reach you without your permission. It shields you from manipulation, because you can see through lies and deception. It protects your energy, because you no longer waste it on battles that don't matter. It makes your time more valuable, because you are fully present for each hour you live. And most importantly, it sharpens your decision-making. You stop acting out of emotion. You stop chasing approval. You start doing what is necessary, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's painful, especially when it's hard. And understand, this living in the present does not mean you ignore the future. It means you prepare for it through decisive action right now. It means you stop fantasizing about victory and start building it moment by moment. You set the plan. You take the step. You keep your vision in mind, but your mind in the moment. Because all progress happens now. All mastery begins here. So ask yourself, where is your mind right now? Are you here? Or are you somewhere else? Are you living, or are you waiting for life to begin? Are you grounded, or are you scattered? Most men will never stop long enough to ask these questions. But you are not most men. You are here for more. You are here to take back your mind, to take back your time, to take back your life. And it starts with this: return to the moment. Claim it. Own it. Use it. Because if you don't rule the present, you will be ruled by fear, by habit, by everything outside of you. But if you do, if you master it, there is nothing that can stop you. Presence is the gateway to all higher things: clarity, control, discipline, peace. This is where kings are forged, not in noise, not in comfort, but in stillness, in focus, in the relentless return to now. So train it, sharpen it, defend it. Make presence your practice, your posture, your permanent state, because the man who lives fully in the present does not just exist, he dominates, silently, powerfully, without needing a single word to prove it. 4. Learn to let go. This is not an act of surrender, it is an act of war. A war against your own attachments, illusions, and emotional dependence. Letting go is not about forgetting or pretending it never mattered. It is about reclaiming your authority over your mind, your energy, and your direction. Because the longer you hold on to what no longer belongs in your life, the more you sabotage your ability to move forward. Most men are haunted not by what's happening right now, but by what they refuse to release. Old relationships, failed dreams, betrayals, identities rooted in who they used to be. They carry it all like invisible armor, dragging the past into every present moment and then wondering why they feel heavy, slow, and off balance. But the Stoic understands. What you do not release will eventually control you. It will shape your decisions, cloud your judgment, and distort your purpose. Letting go is an act of self-respect. It is the bold, disciplined decision to stop feeding what no longer feeds you. You no longer beg for understanding from people committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer chase closure from those who were never capable of giving you truth. You stop seeking peace from the very things that caused your chaos. To let go is to cut the cord, to free yourself from the emotional hooks that keep you reacting to ghosts, memories, and broken expectations. And no, it doesn't happen all at once. It is a daily practice, a decision you make every time your mind drifts backward into regret, into fantasy, into the illusion that maybe, just maybe, if you waited long enough or tried a little harder, the past would somehow correct itself. But the Stoic does not wait for the past to be redeemed. He accepts it, learns from it, and then lets it fall behind him like dust from boots that are still marching forward. Letting go also requires confronting your own ego, because often what we cling to is not love, it's pride. It's the story we told ourselves about how life was supposed to go, the belief that we deserved something different, the identity we built around being right, being wanted, being validated. And when that story collapses, the ego resists. It says, hold on, don't let them go. Don't let the dream die. Don't walk away. We're not done. But your soul knows when something is over. Your inner voice grows quiet. Your energy feels drained. And still, many ignore that truth because they fear what comes next. The unknown. the silence, the emptiness. But that silence is not your enemy. It is where strength is rebuilt. It is the fire where clarity is forged. The man who learns to let go becomes more powerful than the one who clings, because he becomes light, focused, directed. He is no longer shackled to explanations, to apologies, to unresolved endings. He understands that life will not wrap up every story with closure, and that justice is not always visible. He does not need to be right in the eyes of others. He needs to be right with himself, and that means releasing what he cannot change, so he can dominate what he can. He lets go of timelines. He lets go of people who no longer align. He lets go of comfort when it becomes a cage. And in that release, he does not weaken. He sharpens. He strips down to the essentials: discipline, presence, movement, and he begins again. Not bitter, but better. Not shattered, but stripped. Leaner, stronger, quieter, ready. Letting go is also a form of emotional armor. When you carry resentment, when you keep replaying what they did, what you lost, what never came to be, you remain vulnerable, easily provoked, easily manipulated. You react to shadows. But when you've let go, when you've truly buried the past with acceptance and finality, no one can weaponize it against you. They can bring it up. They can try to provoke you, but it won't land. You already put it down. You already released it. It holds no weight in your heart, no tension in your voice, no presence in your mind. And that is a rare kind of freedom. So train yourself to let go. When a chapter ends, close it. When the truth reveals itself, accept it. When your instinct tells you something is finished, believe it. Do not water dead things. Do not stay loyal to stories that no longer serve your evolution. You are not here to stay stuck. You are here to rise. And rising requires release. Cut the cord. Release the weight. Clear the noise. And then walk forward. Not with anger, not with sorrow, but with the stillness of a man who has made peace with what was, and now moves forward with nothing but his focus, his silence, and his mission. That is letting go. That is the discipline of the Stoic. And that is how you build a life no past can break. 5. Use silence effectively. Silence is not a void. It is not the absence of thought, intelligence, or force. It is the concentrated presence of discipline in a culture that rewards constant expression, immediate reaction, and endless chatter. The man who holds his silence is not retreating. He is commanding, while others speak just to speak, argue to prove their own insecurity, and expose their intentions in every sentence. The Stoic man understands that every word has weight, and undisciplined speech is the quickest way to give away your power. Silence is not just a pause between words. It is a shield, a weapon, a signal that you operate by a different code. You do not chase the comfort of being heard. You do not need to fill the room with your voice to feel in control. You are in control precisely because you know when to hold back, because you've trained yourself to remain still when others flinch, to stay quiet when others explode, and to listen deeply when others are too loud to hear anything at all. The man who uses silence well becomes unreadable. He becomes a mirror. People see what they project onto him, but they never really know what he's thinking. That's power, because in negotiation, in conflict, in competition, the man who reveals the least is the man who has the advantage. Silence allows you to observe without being observed. It gives you space to analyze, to interpret, to understand the motives behind the words being thrown at you. When you speak too quickly, you leak information. When you speak too often, you lose authority. But when you use silence as a weapon, you create tension. You make others fill the space. And in that space, they reveal their hand while you reveal nothing. That is not passivity. That is control at the highest level. This is why the Stoics trained their tongues as much as their minds, because they understood that a single careless word could undo what took years to build. In silence, you protect your energy. You guard your strategy. You deny your enemies access to your emotional core, and you force the world to deal with your presence rather than your noise. True strength is never loud. It moves quietly. It acts without warning. It speaks only when it must. And when it does, it cuts clean. The average man is ruled by his mouth. He argues when he should listen. He confesses when he should observe. He reacts to every insult, defends every accusation, and exposes every insecurity with his need to be understood. But the Stoic remains silent, not because he lacks something to say, but because he understands that what is unsaid often holds more power than what is spoken. Silence also brings mastery over the self. When you sit in silence, you meet yourself without distraction. You face your thoughts, your impulses, your fears. Most men avoid this because it is uncomfortable, but that discomfort is where growth happens. That stillness is where clarity is forged. In silence, your awareness deepens. You begin to notice how often you speak to justify yourself, how often you interrupt to regain control, how often you fill the air because you're afraid of being exposed. And as you notice these patterns, you begin to outgrow them. You speak less. You listen more. You stop reacting. You start choosing. Every time you choose silence over noise, patience over urgency, observation over reaction, you build a new layer of inner armor, not one that hides you, but one that holds you steady. There will be people who mistake your silence for weakness. Let them. There will be those who are unnerved by your calm, by your refusal to be provoked. Let them be uncomfortable. You are not here to make noise. You are here to master yourself. You are here to study the battlefield while others blindly charge into it. You are here to speak with weight, not with volume, because when your silence ends, when you finally do speak, your words will carry the sharpness of a man who doesn't speak unless it matters. That's how you earn respect in a world that confuses noise with leadership. You speak less. You say more. And do not confuse silence with inaction. A Stoic man might be quiet, but his mind is working. He is always calculating, preparing, analyzing. His silence is not stagnation. It is a tactical delay. It is the calm before a deliberate strike. It is the breath between tension and precision. He is not absent, he is watching. He is not passive, he is positioning. And when he chooses to move, there is no wasted motion, no wasted words, just clarity, just impact, just the quiet dominance of a man who is no longer enslaved by the need to be seen or heard. So sharpen your silence. Let it become a force of its own. Let it protect you from careless speech and reckless reaction. Let it guard your emotions, your plans, your purpose. Speak when it's time. Speak with weight. But until then, let your silence speak for you. in your posture, in your presence, in your refusal to be pulled into drama or distraction, because the man who controls his voice controls his energy, and the man who controls his energy controls his future. That is the power of silence. That is the mark of the Stoic. And that is the discipline of the man who chooses not to be loud, but to be unshakable. 6. Practice mindfulness. This is not an abstract ideal reserved for monks or philosophers. It is a necessity for any man who wants to live with precision, presence, and power. To be mindful is to be awake. Not just awake in the physical sense, but alert, intentional, and fully aware of your internal state and external surroundings at all times. It is the quiet discipline of watching your own mind, like a guard watches the gate, ready to intercept anything that does not belong. In a world that profits from your distraction, mindfulness is rebellion. It is the strategic refusal to let your attention be stolen, diluted, or hijacked by noise, emotion, or manipulation. It is the daily practice of returning again and again to the moment in front of you, to the breath in your lungs, to the task at hand. The Stoic does not wait for calm. He creates it through command of his awareness. Without mindfulness, your mind becomes a battlefield, and you won't even know you're losing. Your emotions will erupt without warning. Your focus will scatter. You will speak without thinking, and act without alignment. But when you practice mindfulness, you take back the high ground. You begin to separate observation from reaction. You learn to feel your anger rising and choose not to be ruled by it. You hear the insult, but recognize the weakness behind it. You feel the fear, but you move forward anyway. Mindfulness does not mean you suppress what you feel. It means you study it. You give it no more power than it deserves. You acknowledge it, without being enslaved by it. You become the kind of man who responds with thought, not impulse, with silence, not panic, with presence, not noise. This level of awareness creates something most men never experience: inner stillness. Not passivity, not apathy, but a deep, grounded stillness beneath the chaos of daily life. While others scramble, you observe. While others fumble for words, you wait. You become difficult to provoke, impossible to manipulate, and unshakable in your mission. Because you are no longer asleep at the wheel of your own mind, you're fully here, watching, listening, calculating, acting only when necessary, but with full weight behind every move. And the benefits of mindfulness extend far beyond just calmness. It improves your physical discipline. You train harder because you're aware of your limits. You push further because you're tuned into the feedback your body gives. You become sharper in conversation, more discerning in judgment, more exact in execution. Your thoughts become tools, not traps. Your emotions become signals, not chains. And you begin to see what others miss, not because you're smarter, but because you're paying attention. You begin to understand patterns in people, in environments, in yourself. You know when you're drifting. You know when temptation is whispering. You know when weakness is trying to speak in the voice of comfort, and you shut it down, not with aggression, but with quiet recognition. That is what separates the Stoic from the scattered. He does not live on autopilot. He does not outsource his mind. He trains it, refines it, commands it. But this is not easy. Your mind will resist. It will pull you toward distraction. It will beg for stimulation. It will feed you 1,000 thoughts that have nothing to do with what matters. And your task is to return, over and over again. You will fail. You will drift. But every return is a victory. Every time you bring your attention back to your breath, your work, your purpose, you strengthen the muscle of awareness. And the stronger it gets, the harder you become to shake. This is the edge. The man who trains his awareness becomes faster than confusion, faster than anger, faster than temptation. He moves before emotion takes control. He sees the game while others are still reacting. He becomes untouchable, not because he is detached from life, but because he is fully engaged in it. Mindfulness does not distance you from life. It roots you in it. It turns every moment into something you own, every conversation into something you shape, every challenge into something you can assess and conquer. You stop being a victim of reaction, and you start becoming the architect of your response. So train it. Ruthlessly, wake up and observe your thoughts before the day begins. Pay attention to the sensations in your body as you walk, sit, breathe. Catch yourself when your mind wanders. Bring it back. Sharpen your senses. Look people in the eyes. Listen without interrupting. Walk into rooms with full presence. Not half there, but all in. The world may be fast, but you move on your own terms. Calm, aware, grounded. That is mindfulness. And it is the foundation of all inner strength. Because without it, you are just reacting. But with it, you become precise, strategic, resilient. The man who commands his attention commands his life. The man who sees clearly cannot be led blindly. The man who is present cannot be overthrown by fear or anger or noise. He sees what others miss. He knows what others doubt, and he does what others delay. That is the discipline of the Stoic mind. That is the edge of presence. And that is how you become a man who cannot be moved. 7. Enjoy the journey. Not just the outcome. This lesson is not just about patience, it's about liberation. Most men walk through life in chains, and they don't even see them. The chains are made of expectations, timelines, status, and the false belief that joy, peace, and worth are waiting for them somewhere down the road. I'll be content when I make this amount. I'll be proud when I'm recognized. I'll be happy when I arrive. But the Stoic looks at this and sees the trap, because every time you place your peace in the future, you hand it over to something you cannot control. You turn yourself into a hostage, forever chasing, never resting. The goal becomes a mirage. You reach it, only to find that the feeling you were chasing slips through your fingers and attaches itself to the next milestone. The Stoic does not live this way. He understands that real power comes from falling in love with the process, with the work, with the path itself. Enjoying the journey means learning to extract meaning and strength from every step. Not just the glamorous ones, not just the breakthroughs, but the silent repetitions, the early mornings, the late nights, the days when motivation is gone, but discipline still shows up. This mindset turns effort into reward. It transforms every moment of struggle into an opportunity to become not more successful in the eyes of the world, but more grounded, more capable, more resilient. The Stoic learns to enjoy the structure itself, the training, the planning, the solitude. He learns to take pride in the way he moves through the world, quietly, deliberately, with consistency and control, not because someone is watching, not because someone will reward him, but because he holds himself to a higher standard, and that alone is enough. The man who enjoys the journey is a threat to a world that profits from dissatisfaction. He does not need to chase pleasure. He does not need to be constantly entertained or externally validated. His joy is not fragile. It is built from within. It is rooted in the daily act of showing up and doing what needs to be done. Whether the task is exciting or dull, whether the rewards are immediate or delayed, he meets it with the same presence, because the process is the fire that shapes him, and the more he embraces that fire, the stronger he becomes. Every repetition is a blade stroke across steel, slowly sharpening him into something unbreakable. This doesn't mean the Stoic doesn't have goals. He does. He sets them. He pursues them with intensity, but he is not owned by them. He does not tie his self-worth to the outcome. He does not become disoriented when things take longer than expected. He understands that the world is chaotic. Outcomes are uncertain, and results are not promised. But what is promised, what is always available, is his ability to show up today with clarity, to act with intention, and to improve who he is through the choices he makes. He understands that even failure, when faced with the right mindset, becomes part of the journey. It becomes the teacher, it becomes fuel. Enjoying the journey also protects you from emotional collapse, because when your happiness depends entirely on achieving something external, you become fragile. Every delay feels like defeat. Every setback feels personal. You start resenting the process instead of respecting it. But when you learn to love the grind itself, to find purpose in the repetition, in the solitude, in the uncelebrated discipline, you become durable. You become consistent. And consistency is what separates the real from the temporary. Anyone can be motivated for a week, but only the man who enjoys the journey can stay focused for a decade. So, ask yourself, are you truly walking your path? Or are you sprinting toward a finish line you haven't even defined? Are you connected to the task in front of you? Or are you just enduring it, hoping it ends quickly? Learn to return to the moment, to the breath, to the repetition. Let each step matter. Let each action hold weight. And trust this truth. The man who honors the process will never be lost, because no matter what changes around him, success, failure, fortune, loss, he remains steady. He knows who he is, because he built himself through every small moment the world overlooked. That is the mindset of the Stoic. He does not chase arrival. He chooses presence. He does not worship outcomes. He perfects his effort, and through that effort, he becomes a force that cannot be rushed, cannot be swayed, and cannot be broken, because his joy is not postponed. It is earned daily, through the way he walks his path, quiet, committed, unshakable. 8. Appreciate solitude. This is not just a lifestyle preference. This is a tactical necessity for any man who seeks mastery over himself and command over his direction. Solitude is not something to be feared. It is something to be cultivated, respected, and strategically deployed. In the silence of solitude, a man faces the truth that society tries to drown out. He meets himself without the masks, without the noise, without the false comfort of distraction, and that confrontation is where real transformation begins. The Stoic does not avoid solitude because it feels heavy. He enters it because it feels real. It is in solitude that the disciplined man separates what is true from what is merely loud. He sees what drives him. He confronts his weaknesses. He realigns with his values. While the crowd runs from themselves, scrolling, talking, posting, pretending, the Stoic walks into the quiet and emerges stronger, because he understands that solitude is not absence, it is presence pure, undiluted presence with one's own thoughts, intentions, and inner world. Most men have never truly been alone with themselves. They fear the silence because they fear what they will hear. They keep busy to avoid confrontation with their inner void. But the Stoic embraces it. He sharpens his mind in that silence. He trains his attention. He identifies the impulses that try to control him, and instead of being ruled by them, he masters them. He does not distract himself from his discomfort. He studies it. He observes it until it loses its grip. That's what solitude offers. A mirror, held up without judgment, without distortion. It shows you who you really are, and for the man who is serious about strength, about truth, about becoming unshakable, that is invaluable. Because once you know yourself without noise, without praise, without reaction, you become immune to the games the world plays. Solitude also provides clarity. It creates the space necessary for long-term thinking, strategic vision, and deep decision-making. In solitude, the Stoic is not idle. He is reviewing, recalibrating, preparing. He is taking inventory of his thoughts, his actions, and his direction. He is cutting away what is unnecessary. He is making peace with his past and drawing strength from the present. He is not isolated. He is focused. And this focus makes him a threat in a world where most people are scattered, distracted, and emotionally dependent. The man who thrives in solitude walks into every room with calm energy. He is not there to impress. He is not there to compete. He has already done the work when no one was watching. He has already faced himself in the dark, and that kind of quiet confidence can't be faked. It must be earned. But solitude is not just for stillness. It is also for rebuilding. After loss, after betrayal, after failure, the Stoic retreats to solitude, not to sulk, but to rebuild in silence, to recover with discipline, to rise again, not with noise, but with intention. The world sees only the return, the comeback, the power, but the Stoic knows it was the solitude that forged the steel, that rebuilt the armor, that refined the purpose. In solitude, the Stoic rewrites his internal narrative. He reminds himself that his worth is not measured by the crowd, not by praise, not by how many people approve. It is measured by the weight of his own character, the clarity of his mission, and the integrity of how he moves when no one is clapping. And perhaps most important, solitude makes a man resilient to manipulation. Because when you've learned to enjoy your own company, when you've sat with yourself and become your own source of clarity, you cannot be baited with flattery. You cannot be controlled through loneliness. You cannot be seduced by shallow offers of connection. You know your value because you discovered it alone. You know your direction because you charted it in silence. That makes you dangerous in a world full of men who panic at the thought of being alone. Solitude has trained you to be whole on your own, to lead without approval, to remain steady when others crumble without support. So seek solitude, not as an escape, but as a sharpening stone. Return to it not when you are broken, but even when you are strong. Let it refine you. Let it test your thoughts. Let it strip away what is weak. There is no substitute for the clarity you gain when it is just you. Your breath, your thoughts, and your purpose. No noisy, no eyes on you, just silence, just truth, just you and the question, who are you when no one's watching? The Stoic knows, because he has spent time answering that question, and every time he returns to solitude, he answers it again, more clearly, more honestly, more powerfully. That is the final lesson. Not to fear being alone, but to master it. Because the man who walks through solitude and emerges stronger is no longer bound by the world. He is free. And in that freedom, he becomes unshakable. 9. The art of gratitude. Understand this. Clearly, gratitude is not softness. It is not weakness. It is not some sentimental emotion reserved for those who have been spared from hardship. True gratitude is forged in pain. It is discovered in loss. It is mastered in adversity. It is the mindset of a man who has seen life at its harshest and still chooses to face it with strength, not bitterness. The Stoic does not confuse gratitude with comfort. He does not wait for life to go his way before giving thanks. He does not tie his appreciation to ease, luxury, or applause. Instead, he looks at his scars and gives thanks for the battle that taught him how to fight. He looks at the discipline that no one saw and gives thanks that he stayed the course. He looks at the silence that others feared and gives thanks that he learned to listen to it. Gratitude, to the Stoic, is a weapon. It is how he maintains clarity in a world that constantly tries to distract him. It is how he keeps moving when others break. It is how he holds the line, not because it is easy, but because he knows it is right. Gratitude is a choice. It is not something you wait for, it is something you build. Every day you wake up and breathe with power in your lungs. You have something to be grateful for. Every time you choose self-control over indulgence, you have something to be proud of. Every time you walk through discomfort with your head high and your emotions restrained, you are proving to yourself that you are more than what happens to you. You are more than your circumstances. And that, right there, is reason for gratitude. Not because life gave you a smooth path, but because it gave you the tools to walk through a difficult one. The Stoic gives thanks for his ability to endure, to persist, to think clearly in chaos. He is not grateful for fantasy. He is grateful for reality and the power he has learned to wield within it. And here is where most men go wrong. They believe that gratitude is for when life is gentle, that it should only follow success, comfort, praise. But the disciplined man knows that the moment you limit your gratitude to what feels good is the moment you become fragile, because life will not always reward you. It will test you. It will cut deep. It will take things from you without warning. And when it does, you will either curse it or thank it. Thank it for exposing what was weak. Thank it for showing you what matters. Thank it for forcing you to grow beyond the version of yourself you once clung to. That is the art of gratitude. Not blind optimism, but brutal clarity. The ability to look at pain and say, "This will not break me. This will build me." To look at loss and say, "Now I see what cannot be taken." To look at the chaos and say, "I am still here, and I am still choosing strength." This is why gratitude is not some extra step. It is foundational. It is what allows you to keep your center when everything around you is designed to pull you off balance. It guards your mind from entitlement. It shields your emotions from corrosion. It clears your vision when others are blinded by what they lack. The Stoic trains himself daily to acknowledge what is good, not in fantasy, but in fact. He gives thanks for his awareness, because he knows most people sleepwalk through life. He gives thanks for pain, because he knows it has shaped his discipline. He gives thanks for stillness, because it gives him space to sharpen his thoughts. And when others fall apart because their comfort has been removed, the Stoic remains calm, composed, and grateful for the opportunity to lead. So, practice this not once, but every day. When you wake, give thanks that you get another day to build, to train, to rise. When you suffer, give thanks that you are being refined. When you fail, give thanks that you are being taught. When you are alone, give thanks that you can hear your own thoughts without interference. This is not just philosophy. This is survival. This is how you protect your mental fortress from the disease of entitlement and the cancer of comparison. Because once you learn how to find strength in what you have, no one can manipulate you through what you don't. No loss can shatter you. No delay can derail you. No insult can shake you. You are already full, already focused, already grounded. Gratitude is not a feeling, it is a weapon. It is how a man fights against weakness, how he resists emotional decay, how he commands his mind to stay sharp, even in darkness. Use it, master it, carry it with you, not just in good times, but especially in hard times. Because when the world sees a man who walks through fire with calm, who carries burdens without complaint, who builds without applause and still gives thanks, that man is feared, that man is respected, and above all, that man is free. That is the Stoic way. That is the discipline of gratitude, and that is what builds a man who cannot be moved. 10. Find joy in the simplest things. This is not about settling for less. It is about realizing how much strength is hidden in less. It is about reprogramming a mind that has been trained to associate happiness with consumption, speed, novelty, and external validation. In today's world, everything pulls you outward. You are bombarded with images, sounds, offers, and promises that if you just acquire more, travel more, achieve more, you'll finally feel satisfied. But the Stoic sees this for what it is: a trap, a distraction, a game designed to keep you emotionally dependent on what can be taken from you. So he chooses a different path. He trains himself to extract joy not from extravagance, but from mastery, not from stimulation, but from stillness, not from having more, but from being more. He finds peace in a clean space, strength in a disciplined routine, power in the breath before dawn. There is joy in a cold shower, in a deep breath of air that costs nothing, in a body that obeys because it has been trained, in a mind that remains quiet when others are agitated. To find joy in the simple is not to reject ambition. It is to anchor yourself in what is real, so you do not lose your soul chasing what is not. The man who needs grand conditions to feel at peace is a man easily broken, but the man who can sit alone in silence, feel the breeze on his skin, observe his thoughts without reacting, and say to himself, "This is enough," that man is dangerous. He cannot be baited by luxury. He cannot be manipulated by scarcity. He cannot be seduced by false urgency, because he already sees what truly matters. He has already built joy into his core, and this gives him an unshakable edge. This is not about rejecting comfort. It is about not being ruled by it. When you learn to enjoy the simple things, you become more durable, more focused, You begin to walk through the world with an internal calm that others do not understand. While they scramble for the next hit of pleasure, you stay grounded in discipline. While they chase applause, you find satisfaction in the quality of your work. While they fall into despair when things are taken from them, you remain steady because your joy was never built on those things to begin with. Simple joy does not mean small joy. It means clear joy, joy that cannot be corrupted. The quiet pride of waking up early, sharpening your body, and commanding your mind. The dignity of preparing your own meals. The peace of knowing your environment is clean because you cleaned it. The power of knowing you can walk alone, without fear, because you have trained your thoughts to be your ally instead of your enemy. These are not things the world will celebrate, but they are the very things that make a man resilient. And when you master this mindset, you gain control over your energy. You stop chasing. You start creating. You stop consuming mindlessly. You start investing with purpose. You begin to appreciate what others overlook because your attention is no longer scattered. It is directed, precise. You hear the silence others try to avoid. You see the beauty in effort. You feel the weight in the ordinary, and that changes everything. You stop waiting for life to give you permission to feel good. You take it. You create it. You live it now. This is how you become dangerous to a world that thrives on distraction. You become the man who no longer needs entertainment to feel alive. You become the man who can sit still while others panic. You become the man who chooses what deserves his attention, who protects his peace, and who doesn't give his time to anything that doesn't feed his mind or harden his will. That is the kind of man who cannot be bought, cannot be rattled, cannot be led astray. So, look around. Strip things back. Ask yourself, what can I enjoy that costs nothing? What can I simplify that strengthens me? What can I remove that steals my focus? And what can I return to that grounds me? Because the truth is, the joy you seek is already here. It has always been here, but it's been buried under noise, hidden by excess, and drowned in the endless chase. Bring yourself back to breath, to movement, to silence, to presence. Find joy in the simplicity of being alive, being aware, and being in full control of your response to the world. That is not weakness. That is command. And that is the mark of a man who has freed himself from the game, and in doing so, found something far more rare than success. He has found peace. Real, lasting, unshakable peace, built from the inside out, strengthened through discipline, protected by clarity, and honored every day by the choice to remain grounded in what truly matters. You were not made to live in fear, to chase approval, or to fold under pressure. You were made to rise, to endure, to stand firm in a world that wants you distracted, reactive, and weak. The Stoic path is not loud. It does not beg for recognition. It is built in silence, through discipline, through presence, and through absolute ownership of your mind. Every lesson shared in this video is a tool. Use it. Return to it. Build your habits not for comfort, but for strength. Train your focus. Guard your peace. Speak less, but with more weight. Move with intention. And when the world tries to pull you off course with noise, emotion, and temptation, hold the line, because the man who can hold the line when others collapse is the man who leads, the man who lasts, the man who cannot be broken. This is your reminder. You do not need more to become more. You need less noise, more clarity, less comfort, more command. And above all, you need to keep showing up with stillness in your breath, power in your posture, and purpose in every step. Be the man who walks alone, if he must, but never walks without direction. Let others chase. You stand, calm, focused, unmoved. This is the way forward. This is the Stoic way.